Well, good afternoon and welcome to Sunday at 6, Facebook Live from Llanwelleth Baptist Church. My name is Richard Miles and it's great to be with you again this evening. I want to talk to you about something this evening that I'm sure that many of you have been talking about over this past few weeks, particularly if you live in the part of the world where we are at the moment, and that is the weather. Now, when it comes to the weather, it's a topic of conversation that we often have, isn't it, with each other. I think it's probably true because in this country where I'm broadcasting from now, the weather is often so changeable, isn't it? It's very rarely the same sort of for any length of time. It can be sunny, it can be raining, it can be snowing, all those things happen. And it's a topic of conversation. People say, oh, it's a nice day today, isn't it? Now, the last few weeks have been quite warm, haven't they? We've had quite high temperatures and the sun's been out. And obviously when the sun is out, we're reminded to take precautions, aren't we? To wear sun cream if it's really hot, or to wear a hat to keep the sun off your head, and things like that. Very important precautions to take when the weather is hot. But the other afternoon, we were sitting not very far from here, and we're having lunch outside a cafe not too far from here, and it started to rain. The sky went really dark and the rain came down. And as we were sitting down, the people from the cafe very kindly came along and brought us a nice big umbrella, and that kept us nice and dry. Well, the thing was, the rain came and it lasted for, I don't know, about 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. And so we finished our meal and went off and did a bit of shopping. By the end of the afternoon, the sun had become really, really hot. We'd gone from this rainy weather to very, very hot weather, all in the space of a few hours. Which, as I say, is why, I guess, we talk about the weather so much. This morning was very similar, really. In many ways, it's a warm day today here again. We left for church this morning and it was sort of drizzling with rain. We finished our church service, and as we came out, we saw that there was quite a lot of water on the ground. It had been raining quite heavily. And then this afternoon again, it's become warm and humid again. And so weather, something that we always talk about. But you know, the important thing for us to remember is this. It is God who is in control of the weather. Regardless of what it's like, whether it's raining, whether it's sunny, whether it's snowing, whether it's dry, whatever it's like, God is in control. God is in charge of the weather at all times and in all seasons. I mean, the seasons come round, don't they? Summer, autumn, winter, spring. We're in summer at the moment. And we've just yesterday had what was the longest day. And so now I suppose we'll start talking about the nights drawing in again, won't we, as we go towards the autumn. But that happens as a cycle, doesn't it? We go from the longest day, which is the summer solstice. We then have the autumn equinox. We then have the winter solstice. We then have the spring equinox, or spring equinox, and so on, don't we? All these things happen in a cycle every year. And God is the one who keeps all of this going. We can't control what the weather does. It is up to him. Now, some scientists are telling us now that because of the issue with climate change, that what's happening is that the climate change things that are happening are affecting the weather. And I think there's something in that, isn't there? There's no doubt about it that, you know, as the climate is changing at the moment, then it is going to have an effect on the weather, in that we get these extremes one after the other, don't we? And again, it's a reminder for us, isn't it, that we are to be responsible as we live our lives to make sure that we're not overly contributing towards climate change. We're responsible people. with the way that we live, the way that we act and things like that. I don't want to go into that this afternoon particularly, but that is certainly true, isn't it? It does have an effect. But even though the climate change things do have an effect, God is still in control. And it is the same for everybody. The same weather happens for everybody. God does not just favour certain people with nice weather or certain people with wet weather. Jesus said this. He says, God causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and unrighteous. So that really is everybody, isn't it? Regardless of who they are. God does not use the weather as punishment for people if they're not behaving the way they should. He sends the weather regardless. So whether you're a good person or not, you get rain, you get sunshine. If you're a righteous person or an unrighteous person, you get rain and you get sunshine. God doesn't use the weather as a punishment. But what he does do is he sends us the weather just to give us a little reminder that he is actually in control of the situation. That there are things that do happen in this world that are actually beyond us. Things that we can't control. You know, if we're planning something and we're planning something outdoors, like for instance this coming Saturday where we live here in Gavilan, we're planning to have a village fun day down in the local field. And of course what we want for that fun day is that we will have nice weather that day. But in the end, it is out of our control. And so God's saying to us, yes, by all means plan these things, but just realise who is the one that sends the rain, who is the one that sends the sun. And so let's be aware of that as we have our discussions about the weather. I'm sure that we'll continue to do that. As I say, in this country, it's a common topic of conversation, isn't it? Something we often talk about is the weather. Perhaps it's because we don't. It means if we're talking about the weather, we're not talking about politics and things like that, which we really don't want to get into, do we? But the weather can seem to be a kind of neutral topic, can't it? And the interesting thing about when Jesus said these words about rain and sunshine upon righteous and unrighteous people is that he was talking in the context of us loving those who are against us, loving our enemies. And what he's saying is really that we need to realise that those who we disagree with, those who we might think are our enemies, they're in exactly the same situation as we are as regards the weather. God doesn't use the weather against them either. God doesn't use the weather to say, oh, that, you know, I'm going to punish your enemies. No, he sends the sunshine on those we disagree with. He sends the rain on those we disagree with. And so we're to realise that we are, in one sense, in exactly the same situation as they are in that situation, so that we don't feel superior, so that we don't somehow feel that we're better than they are. And so we can, as Jesus says, love our enemies and do good to everybody, because ultimately we're all in the same boat, as it were, if you want to use that expression. I suppose there are some weather conditions where it's more appropriate to use a boat than others, isn't it? But as we think about the weather, as we think about the way things are, let's thank God for the weather, because the weather is designed so that things in the world will grow properly, so that food will be grown, so that we'll be able to have what we need for our lives. All this comes from God. So we thank him for providing us with the weather, and we realise that we're not entitled to our own private bit of weather the way we want it to be, whether we like the idea of it being bright and sunny or whether we want a bit of rain for the garden. The rain and the sun come according to what God decides, according to what God wants. So just remember these words. God sends the sun to rise on the evil and good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Well, thank you so much for watching again this afternoon. It's good to be with you, and pray that God's blessing will be upon you. Once again, you feel free to comment underneath this video, and also please look for our YouTube channel, which is llanwellys.org, and also our website, which is gavailinchurch.org. So look for those and you'll find more details about us and our services and the things that are going on in the church. And so, God bless you.